Hey guys, you're listening to Butterfly Road, where we talk everything sport and mental health. I'm Ginny McGowan, joined by Cari Riccaro, and it's time to get mentally naked.
What's up?
Hi, friends.
Hey, we were just shooting the shit.
I was playing it cool.
I'm not.
We literally just had a 5-minute conversation about how Ginny was starstruck when she met you.
But
fine.
like, was like cool.
She was shaking in her boots. She was like,
I was not. Relax.
I'm Ginny. So background for anyone, we all got together. We all had a little powwow in Chicago. And Ginny was starstruck.
Okay. Obviously, I was a little starstruck because it's Lindsey.
I know, she is famous.
She's sick.
Famous.
I was starstruck with Jess, too. I'm probably going to be starstruck with every guest we have.
Wait, I think when Lindsey drove your car, you're like, Lindsey's going to drive my car. I'm like, okay.
She wore my scarf.
Oh, I did. And then you're like, can I get that back?
Oh, wait, actually, I heard that Ginny didn't wash that scarf.
Yeah, I like your smell, so naturally.
No, now we're getting creepy.
That's creepy, yeah.
Yeah, now we're getting creepy. So I guess I will introduce. I always do this. It is our second guest. She has big shoes to fill from Jess, but I think she could do it. My dear, dear friend and Ginny's best friend, Lindsey Horan of the Portland Thorns and the U.S. Women's National Team. I hate the Thorns, but it's fine. Willing to make an exception and be nice for today. Lindsey decided after like a little bit of begging to come on the podcast. I think she's excited. No, all jokes aside, I think you are excited to like finally open up, share your story. I feel like you are. People look at you probably as this like, you know, Ginny, why don't you tell everyone
as what I look at her? Well, I mean, I don't know. I've never heard your story, obviously, and Cari's like never told me, so I'm coming into this kind of blind, but I'm really excited to hear about it. And I also just want to like know how you guys started out being friends, because how long? Like it's been forever, right?
I recently, actually, Lindsey was the recipient of my third card for the year. You were my second one. Oh. She just got my card in the mail, and I think I wrote in the card how she's my longest, closest friend officially. I think it's been over 10 years. We met in 2010, I think.
It's our 10-year anniversary.
2009. We've known each other a while. No, because that would be 11 years.
11-year anniversary.
I guess we could say 11-year anniversary. But she came into a camp and she had this weird side braid high in the side and
no, I didn't.
Pigeon-toed, walked around you thought I was a bitch.
Yeah.
And I didn't care, I guess. I was just like doing my thing. And
you thought the same of me.
I like wanted nothing to do with her, honestly. I was like, I have my friends. Happy. Yeah, I was like, who is this bitch? And then we were on the 17s together, ended up going through not qualifying for the World Cup together, but we're the same age, so we climbed up the ladder together. And it kind of works like if you keep getting called into camps, the same core group, you stay close. But we just hit it off, and she always laughs at my jokes and stuff, so I think that definitely helped our friendship. I was like, yeah, she thinks I'm funny. This is good. And then we just like got really close. I think we like loved playing together on the field too, which is awesome because I like don't even hold a candle to her. But so it is cool. Like I've always thought that my whole life. I'm like, oh my God, it's so cool that she semi-respects me as a footballer. Like this is awesome.
You're making me sound terrible. Don't start it off like that. Also,
you go. Go ahead.
I can't believe you didn't introduce me as like Lindsey Mushy.
I was literally I did because part of this is a joke or funny, but like this is also very serious, and it is your time to like open up. But yeah, so it's Lindsey Michelle Horan. I literally call her Mushy. I've been calling her Mushy for like 9 years. Yeah, like literally call her Mushy on the field. Sometimes Ginny. Sometimes I'll text and it autocorrects to Mishu because of the Mishus. So
yeah.
Like, I'll literally be like, "What's up, Mishu?" But now that she's met Mish,
you have? Oh, duh! I was there.
That was so dumb. All at the same place.
Yeah, we were all there. So yeah, now it just like mixes. So it's like mushy, Michelle. Like if I'm serious,
mushy on the field of the U20 World Cup.
but like if I'm serious, I'll be like Michelle. Like that's when I'm like, that's your full name. Okay, so I mean, it's your story to tell. We obviously all know you love soccer and you're successful.
I guess we'll go like high school days. Obviously, I went to France and played at PSG. And a lot of people know that whole story of how it happened. But when I was 17, junior year of high school, I got the opportunity to go over to Lyon actually and do a trial with their team, which I didn't even know it was a trial. I was literally flying to Barcelona with my family. And my coach at the time, Tim Schultz, called me. I was in the airport and goes, hey, like, I got you training with Olympic Lyonnais. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, you're going in 2 weeks. And I was like, I'm literally about to fly to Barcelona with my family to go on a cruise. And he was just like, well, can we make this happen? And I'm like, yeah, just like, let me know the details. We'll try to figure this out. Like, blah, blah, blah. So we go to Barcelona and I didn't have service on my phone or anything. And the only communication that we had with Tim was through my mom's email. And so he was just trying to give us logistics and stuff. And my dad is just like, yo, we're on vacation. Can we not be stressing about Lindsey going to train with this Lyon team? Like he had no idea what it was. So we like get on the cruise and my mom's computer's not working. So we have to go down to like the cruise's little computer room to go on email. And we check once a day. My dad was like, come on, like we need to like enjoy this. So we'd go and check and whatever. And after like a week and a half of this, it was so stressful. It was just a nonsense vacation. And we finally decided this was the right move for me. Like I might as well go. But my dad was like, we need a coach or someone to be with Lindsey because she's 17. One of my coaches ended up coming with me, Eric. I went on trial with Lyon, didn't know it was on trial. And they offered me a contract then, which I don't think a lot of people know. I got offered a 4-year contract with Lyon. It was a decent deal, but I was 17 and I didn't even know what the hell a contract was. I had come back. I hadn't finished high school. So that was just a decision in itself. I had basically a week and a half to decide. Ultimately, I said I wasn't ready. So I stayed. I finished out high school, which I said was very important to me, but folks that know me wasn't the most important. So just like a little background on that, I went to probably 2.5 days of school a week. I was in online school the other 2 days, and then I was training in the mornings, and then I would go to my team trainings and the boys training, and I'd be at the field all day. It was the best thing ever.
Yeah, every time I would like call or text her, she's like, sorry, I'm at training. Sorry, I'm at training. I'm like, what do you, should I be training? I'm like, I'm eating Doritos on the couch. You gave up a lot to...
Yeah. I wasn't like giving up anything, you know?
No,
because
like this was your dream and your priority. Like a school dance, you didn't care.
Yeah, Ginny, I was like such a loser. I didn't go to any dances, no social gatherings. So anyway, that whole next year after I turned down the offer from Lyon, they basically said, listen, like, we really like you. We will like hold this offer for you till next year, because they understood that school was so important to me and that I needed to finish that out and get my high school degree, blah, blah, blah. It was literally a year of me deciding if I wanted to go to UNC, the great North Carolina Tar Heels, who I had committed to. Go Tar Heels, baby.
Tar. Jenny's like squirming over
I know. Notre Dame girls over here. So in the end, it was literally like nonstop people giving me advice and their input that I really just like didn't care about. You wouldn't even ask people and they would tell you like, oh, you can't turn down a full ride scholarship to UNC. I mean, that's just stupid. Like, you're sacrificing so much. And I think that in itself spoke to me the most. I would get so angry at these people saying like certain things about my decision. I'm like, I know exactly what I want to do. I think I'm just afraid to say it. So there was one night I stayed after training with Eric, my coach, and we talked for like 3 hours about the whole thing. I like came home probably like 10, 11, and I went and woke up my mom and I was like, I know exactly what I want to do. Like, I want to go play pro. And I think she was like half asleep, just like so shocked that I had come to a decision, but that was it. Cari and I were also like preparing for the U20 World Cup at the same time. So we came back and we said to Lyon, like, I want to play professionally and whatnot. And they had given up their foreign spot. So there's only 3 foreign spots allowed on a team, which basically means anyone that's outside of Europe. They had given it up maybe to a Japanese player or something. So I like made the decision I wanted to play pro, and then the spot was taken. So my club, Colorado Rush, was in contacts with this French guy named Jerome, who actually contacted PSG, and that's how PSG had come about. And they saw clips of me from like our U20 qualifying and were very impressed, and they offered me a contract. Had no idea like what to expect from PSG because I'd gone to Lyon, like, and it was new project with them, and at the same time I'm over here preparing for a U20 World Cup. So it was just like so much to deal with, and at that time I was 18, and it was just very stressful period for me, my parents, everyone in my family. And right as we went to, I think we went to Japan right before the World Cup, because the World Cup was in Japan, so we went over there probably like a month and a half before. And I came back
10th, if you want to know the exact date.
I still hate how annoying Cari is with dates, but right?
And we got back June 22nd because I had I missed prom. But go on.
Oh, no, not prom.
I know.
So I came back from that trip and I got injured. I tore my meniscus. And long story short, they basically said you could try and go and play in the World Cup. My doctor said we would be okay with that, but you risk, one, injuring it more, and then we lose out on a spot with the team and being out for longer, obviously. Or it could go very well and you could be fine. I had then gone to Paris, actually, to speak to the coaching staff, sign my contract and everything, and get my physicals and whatnot. And they did an MRI on my knee, and they said, this is not worth the risk to us. So it's either you don't go to the World Cup and you sign this contract with us, or you go to the World Cup and we see how it goes and we might sign someone else while you're there, or we wait for you and hope for the best. So it was just like another decision I had. Like I made the decision, I'm going to go to PSG, but now they're like, you can't go to the U20 World Cup because we're worried about your knee and it's not worth the risk for us, which is normal for a professional team to do that. And I was like, okay, I think they're right. Again, that was one of the hardest things to say no to. It's like this U20 team that I've been preparing for a World Cup with for
years. But
yeah,
it goes even further back from that. Yeah.
And like, you can't take anything away from like a youth World Cup. Like with the full team, like we get more and more World Cups, not saying like I'm always going to be on the team for those, but there's multiple with that U20 team. There was one U20 World Cup that we could play in with that team. So it was so disappointing to me that I had to say no. I felt so bad for my teammates, but I was like, I'm not going to risk injuring myself and them being out one less player now. And then me ultimately not getting to the goal I want, which is to play professional with the team in Europe. So I said no, and unfortunately somehow that news got leaked. I didn't even get to tell my U20 coach firsthand, so that was a bummer. I think it just like went to the internet and it went all over the place. So that whole process in itself was so stressful. I mean, me being in France was stressful, but that was just like a lot. And Cari probably had to take a lot of that.
I was so sad when you called me. I like kind of already knew we were in Florida for pre-World Cup camp and you weren't there. And I was like, when does Mushy get here?
Yeah, I think I was supposed to come.
And you just like didn't come. And I was crying and it was like, why was I crying? I mean, I know why, but like it was your struggle. I was just like, hi, my friend. And then you mailed me a cake. Remember the Elmo cake?
Oh my God. Wow, you have a good memory.
I know I do.
So that was the process of getting there.
My question is, were you the first person to bypass college in women's soccer and go straight to the pros?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
I think that was probably the scariest part, was like there was no one that I could look up to that had done that. Like in the women's game, like I was speaking to men's players. My coach put me in contact with Connor Casey, who like played with the Rapids for a bit, but like went overseas and played in England. And I was talking to him about it, and he was like, I honestly hated my life. And he was like, it was so hard. The culture changed, all this stuff, like being completely honest with me, which is what I do with people now asking me if this is the right route for them. And I was just like, is this like what I want? He was so miserable over there, and he was in England where they speak English. So that was like the hard thing. And at the same time, like you have your parents that are like, my dad pushed back a lot because he obviously values an education, as does my mom, but they both like wanted me to ultimately make the decision. I always say this. I think it's the coolest thing about my parents was they let me make the decision myself, and they didn't really overstep in trying to like push me towards one thing or the other, but they made sure that I knew like all the facts. And like I basically went on 3 visits to UNC to make sure like that's really not what I wanted. And Anson did absolutely everything to make me want to go there, which I still love Anson to this day. So that was a tough thing.
It's interesting being the person that was by your side through making the decision. Like I knew the entire time.
But you said that you also were like, if you remember this conversation, if you went to Paris or if you went to UNC, which one do you think you would regret more? Like,
I said that?
Yeah, it was like me thinking about going to college and missing out on going to play for PSG, which was such an incredible club and experience and everything that I wanted to do as a kid. Like I said it when I was 15, that I wanted to go play professionally overseas. So I was just like, okay, yeah, it's that. The first month I was basically recovering from my knee and just getting situated, which I don't have to bore you with all the details, but it was nonsense. My mom came over there with me for the first 10 days. I got completely situated in this like mansion. I was supposed to be staying there with like 3 other of my teammates and with this family. And it was like a really good situation. I really liked it. I like got everything unpacked, which was like 5 suitcases, and bought all my groceries, got everything there. Then bawled my eyes out as my mom was leaving. And then the day she left, about 5 hours later, my admin called and said, hey, we got to move you to the city into this apartment. And you're going to live with Anika Kron, who was 10 years older than me. So I got everything moved to the apartment. Like someone helped me out-ish, but it was basically me lugging like 5 suitcases around and up 2 staircases and a spiral staircase in my apartment. And I had to be out of the house that day. So it was like packing within like an hour, everything, getting all my groceries and stuff over to this place. And I get there and there's no bed sheets, no linens, anything. There was 1 towel in the apartment. So this is like actually really sad. I like went over to McDonald's at like 10 p.m. because the place didn't have Wi-Fi yet. Went over to McDonald's, got on Wi-Fi, and I Skyped my mom, and I was like, I don't know what to do. There's no sheets. I don't have Wi-Fi. I don't know who to call, like anything. And Anika was gone. Like she had international duty, so she was with the German national team. My mom was just like, is there anything open? Is the grocery store open? Obviously not. I was like, Mom, I'll just figure it out. Like I have clothes or something. And I ended up just like putting a towel down on the mattress, and I had like no pillows or anything. It was so bad. I literally, this is so sad, but it was like crying myself to sleep that night. And again, I didn't have Wi-Fi, so I couldn't talk to anyone or text anyone about it. And so it was just absolutely ridiculous. I'm 18. Like, I don't know how to like do all this stuff by myself. And I was like so naive. And then of course, there's not a lot of English in this town. I was in this town called Saint-Chamond-en-Laye. It was a very like wealthy older people town. There was really just like not a lot of help. And then the next day, I was like, Mom, I don't know where to go to like buy sheets. And finally I find this store like on the street of where I live. They had sheets, they had pillows, all that nonsense. It was probably the most expensive store in this town. It was the best like bedding and comforters that you could possibly buy. I spent, my mom bought me the present, but it was like 600 euros, everything together, because that was all I knew. And I didn't know where else to go to like get the stuff. And I just needed like sheets. It was bad. The first month or so, I was going through rehab. I was just getting adjusted there. Anika had come back, so I like got to know her a little bit. Anyway, I would like Skype my mom probably twice a day. It was just like very hard for me in the very beginning, because I didn't really have friends. There was no one really to talk to. Most of the girls on the team seemed like they only spoke French. There was maybe like 1 or 2 that spoke English, so I thought. Then after like 2 or 3 months, they decided they would tell me that they spoke English. But That's just like how French people are. And yeah, so I finally started playing, was done with rehab, and was getting happier and happier because I was actually just playing football. And that was why I went there, and I was enjoying it. And it seemed like a really good situation. And until I went on my first road trip, I think, and it was in Guingamp, and it was when these guys were at the U20 World Cup. And I remember I was sitting in the lobby, and again, I just like had no friends on the team and no one really to talk to and whatnot. And I was sitting there, and they were on this like tiny screen in the corner of the room, and I was watching it. It was a championship game, and they won. And my teammates on the team were like, "Oh my gosh, États-Unis, United States, like they won." And they were like clapping for me and all this stuff. But I was just like, what? Why are they clapping for me? I'm like not a part of this team anymore. Like I'm not there. Like I could have been there. And I immediately like started crying in the lobby, and I was like, I need to like go up to my room. I don't want them to see this. But it was just such a weird feeling because I was so excited, especially for like people like Cari and my good friends on the team. I was like, this is so cool. But a part of me was super selfish, and I was like, I should have been there. Like, why am I not there? I could have been a World Cup champion. That was like my first point of second guessing my decision. And did I give up, getting a gold medal with these guys for something that's not worth it? And at the time I was just like, I'm sitting in Guingamp, like this random city in France. I wasn't like starting that game or anything. So I was just like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? Ended up playing my first game, and I think I scored in my first game. So like that was nice, like a little bit of fulfillment, like after I just seen that. And then ultimately a few months later in December, that's when UNC won the championship. And that again was like me second guessing a little bit because it was two things in a row where I was like, is this a sign that I shouldn't be doing this? And like those first 3 or 4 months, I would never have said were that bad. It was such a tough adjustment, but I was talking to my mom nonstop, and like I started kind of getting my reins and like how to go to the grocery store and like learning a little bit of French. And I still wasn't like talking to many girls on the team, but I started like driving with Shirley Cruz and Cassie at the time that were my teammates, and like started to get to know them a little bit. So like I was feeling okay. I really don't think the first like 3 or 4 months were the hardest for me, which normally it is with those kind of transitions.
Yeah, and I guess you just like push through. So for anyone that listened to our episode about like change and transition, I had Lindsey in mind, and I said it during that episode, like change in life is 100% inevitable. And you just got to kind of just be ready to plow through and deal with it. And I feel like that is what you did. You didn't really have a choice. And it probably was hard here and there, but I didn't know it was like that easy for you. After like the initial part,
yeah,
like with the McDonald's and stuff, then it was fine.
Yeah. I would never say it's easy. The first few months were hard compared to like the rest of the time there. It's not. Like I look back and I'm like, that those months were actually easy compared to what it was. But maybe if I was back in that situation, it would be like, no, that was god awful, I think the transition with PSG was easier because I was starting and playing every single game. We had like no other forwards, and they loved me, and I was scoring goals. And also like on the field, I thought everything I was doing was right because I couldn't speak French and I couldn't understand anything they were saying. So I was just like, I think what I'm doing is right, and I'm scoring, and everything like got even better because in January, was it? Tobin had come, Tobin Heath. And there was a Swedish player on the team, Kosovar Aslani, who came at the same time as me, like a few weeks later. She spoke English, but like, I say this to her today, literally hated her because I thought she was just this cocky girl that comes in and thinks she's the absolute, you know what? And I don't know, just like had such a bad attitude to me. And like we spoke and whatnot, but I was like, this is not someone I choose to be friends with. Again, I would say all of this to her. So, and then we ultimately, like when January came around, we both were just like, oh, we should make Tobin feel more at home. Like we could go like to a movie or something. And again, I was like starstruck when Tobin came. That's a whole other story, but I was such a loser. And she arrived. She like came in and we were all in our like little gym. And she came around and said hi to everyone. And I'm like sitting in the back corner, like, and I shake her hand, like such a loser. And I just say like hi and don't say anything else. And I'm literally the only other American there that's like could have made her feel at home because I'd been there for 4 or 5 months at that time. and I didn't. And Tobin makes fun of it to this day. Like, I was so unhelpful to her.
I remember being like so annoyed when she signed there because I was like, that's literally my dream idol, and you are going to be best friends with her. I was so annoyed. Like, I was like,
force best friends.
And I was like, but then I became Tobin's friend because of that. So I got happy.
Yeah, Cari photoshopped herself into a photo.
I did.
Tobin. It was, and then she goes, show Tobin. And I'm like, I'm actually not that good of friends with her yet to show what my creepy best friend is doing.
Well, but then over the years, it's been nice, like to like.
She like knows your name.
We went out to eat once in Portland.
Oh my God, yeah, and you were probably
like freaking out the whole dinner. I was just like,
I was like, please don't say anything stupid.
And then like when we would come with the Dash for those preseason tournaments, she like hugged me hello. Like I was like, oh, we're cool. We're cool now because of you.
She was like, oh, that's Lindsey's friend. I guess I'll be nice.
Whatever, I'll take it honestly. But talk about starstruck. But okay, go on with your story.
Yeah, so I think that was probably towards the time that I really took a hit, which leads me into like the main reason I wanted to talk about the France situation. And I think you guys should feel very honored because I have not shared this amount of detail with anyone. I actually announced on an Adidas panel. This was before the World Cup. So it had to be like 2 or 3 years ago when I announced it. But on this Adidas panel, we were talking about things that have happened to us and affected us for the better, but situations in our game that there were points where we wanted to quit or give up or whatever. And I think in France, that was the number one time that I felt like I wanted to quit soccer and was not enjoying myself. And there was just so much wrong being done that I like lost the love for the game. The first time that this had happened to me, I was at like an away game, and after away games in France, we have these things called cajouré. I think I'm saying that right, but it's basically like the two teams come into like this little space and you like get drinks or pop, and there's snacks and desserts and whatnot, and you kind of just like go and get whatever you want and talk to the other team, and then you guys leave. And again, kind of like what Cari and I said earlier, I was like so used to me training 3 to 4 times a day in my environment at home in Colorado, and I could eat whatever I wanted. And then I came to this professional environment where it was 1 time a day, maybe 2, but you're preparing for a game on the weekend. So you can't go and train 3 to 4 times a day. And it's something I wasn't used to. And I didn't know, how it affected my body and what nutrients I needed to put into it, like everything we know now. So at that time, I was literally doing the same thing I was doing back in the US. I was eating whatever the hell I wanted. And it wasn't like I thought I needed to change anything. That was just me. And I would admit I gained, it was like the freshman 15, like everyone talks about. Like I definitely gained weight and I didn't know it. And nor does like anyone when that first happens to them, like it's very hard to like sit there and look at yourself and say like, oh, my body is changing. And again, for me, it was just like, it was so absurd of a thought that I couldn't eat whatever I wanted because I was just so used to it. And because of how much I was training and whatever. Back to where I was, we were at an away game. And after the game, I went and like, I had gotten some like chocolate thing. And my assistant coach came up to me and smacked it out of my hand and said, no dessert, too much fat, and grabbed the side of my waist, like was grabbing it and said too much fat. And like immediately I was just like, what just happened? And I still like get shaky today because I'm like if that happened in America, there's no way that would go tolerated. And most likely it would be reported or whatever. After that time, like I think I maybe said something to Tobin or said something to someone about it. And I obviously texted my mom and I was like, I don't know what he's talking about, why he said this, whatever. And then I had a meeting with my doctor, and I wasn't the biggest fan of my doctor in the first place, but she said, because we had weekly weigh-ins and fat checks where they use that clamp device and check, your body fat, which is normal in a professional team. I guess that was just like the first time it had ever happened to me. So it was a very different thing for me. So she brought me into this meeting and she was just like, you have too much fat. And they don't know how to say it in the right way. Like here in America, you're just like, okay, I don't know. I feel like it's said a lot differently. And you talk about like your body fat mass, like your muscle mass, like all these things and the percent and whatever. But the way they said it was just like, you have way too much fat and you have gained weight and like, you need to lose this amount, like we're going to have you see a nutritionist and like all this stuff. And it was looked at like such a bad thing in such a negative way. And nothing was understood with the change of environment, culture, food, everything, because you need to change your diet. But like the French food is very rich. Like you don't know what you're putting into your body over there in different countries. So she had said this to me and then that was kind of the start of this. Like I had no idea why this was said to me and I didn't think anything was wrong with the way I looked or the way I felt. And again, I was starting every single game and I was scoring goals. So I was just like, why do I need to change anything? So that leads into just like probably 100 different things that had happened, you know, like comments from my coaching staff. I could just like list off some things. It was like announced to the team if there was like 3 or 4 of us that were going on these diets, that were seeing nutritionists 3 times a week. I had to take pictures of every single meal I had and send them to my nutritionist, any snacks, and she would have to okay it. And if she didn't okay it, she would say like, no, you need to take this away. Like you can't have that. You're having too much of that. I would just receive these messages back. And first off, like her English was terrible, not her fault, but it was terrible. And it would be the same thing. It was like the way they said it to me was so negative and was so wrong when you think about how we go about things here, even though I still don't think we do it in the right way or anyone does for that matter. Just everything was looked at like such a negative to what I was doing. So I had to do that. And our coaches announced to the team, if you guys have desserts, chocolate, candy, or anything, you get fined. We got double fined if we did, the 4 players that were on this diet. If anyone had chocolate or candy around us, they would be double fined. So like one of my teammates after an away game, she had chocolate and the coach like heard it in the front and came back and basically took the chocolate from her and said, you can't have this around Lindsey, because I was sitting a seat ahead of her and she got fined 100 euros or whatever. Then we would go on trips and at the table there was like apple juice or orange juice. And if it was at my table, they would make sure to take it away blatantly, looking at me, smiling, take it away and like go put it at their table. Like I have so many different things. Like
tell them about your birthday.
Oh, birthday, bad. So this was after, I don't know, 3 or 4 months of this. It was my birthday and I had like come in and it was the weigh-in day and my doctor and my trainer were like eating a thing of chocolates. And I like looked at them and I'm like, they get so mad at all these players eating chocolates and candies in front of me, but they're over here just snacking them, shoving them down their throat. I'm like, whatever. And then I looked at, they like said happy birthday and stuff. And I kind of was just like, am I allowed to have dessert on my birthday? And they like look at each other and they're speaking French. And my French is still like not great at that time. And I understand like a few words, but it was a solid no. I literally was like, again, I'm a very sensitive person, but anytime like I heard that or they looked at me in the wrong way, like I wanted to cry. I was just like, I don't understand this. Then my doctor was like, you can have one of these pieces of chocolate. And I'm like, thanks. So that happened. I think it was like one of the U20 camps. This was like me and Cari's next cycle. So we had one more cycle for a U20 World Cup. I was released for one of the camps and I came back and I was probably 2 pounds heavier. They were so upset and changed my diet again. Some of this stuff doesn't sound terrible, but it was the way they went about it and like making me step on the scale nonstop. And it got to the point where they would sometimes like every 2 days I would go step on the scale and they would check my fat more often. I would have to do the DEXA scans more often. I think it was after this had been probably a year or so. I lost a good amount of weight and I was telling Cari this the other day, I got to like, I think 21% body fat, which isn't horrible, but it's it's not like optimal. Maybe for a professional athlete, you might want to be just a little bit less, like whatever. But for me, it's more just like, how does the player feel? And if they feel good and they're performing and they're fit and whatnot, to me, it doesn't matter. And you can look at it and be like, okay, maybe we can change this and that, and you would feel better. But if you see all of this happening, it's like, what more can you really say? And for me, like I'm just thick in general. And I was like so happy. Like I was so proud of myself that I got to this point. I was eating healthier. I was like understanding more. And I was still like very affected by like all of these things happening, and comments from my assistant coaches, my head coach, nonstop about my weight and the way like certain things looked on me. And
What do you mean how things looked?
Like
they commented on, that's crazy. I'm sorry. I'm just like shocked by all of this, and I'm getting very angry.
I knew you would be. I've been looking at your face. You're literally
it's like, insane.
It's like mad. It makes me like so angry still to this day. But there was a photo shoot that we did, and the guy asked what I needed for a certain jacket, and our coach was in there, and I tried on the medium and it didn't fit, and I was like, can I actually do a large? And he was like, at some point you need to be in a medium. You shouldn't be in a large in this jacket. And like kind of smiled and laughed, and I was just like, whatever. And then there were times, like, this was probably what made me Cari, I forgot to say this one. Times that made me like so mad was like, they would have desserts like at our training facility when we would have double days. Like we would go get lunch and there would be desserts at the end, and my nutritionist was like, the only thing you can have is like a plain yogurt, like no sugar in the yogurt and no flavoring in the yogurt. Like that's all you can have, and maybe some fruit, but not too much fruit. And I was like, okay. And our coaching staff would go and take whatever dessert they wanted. And there was a time my assistant coach came by my table and put this like thing of pie in my face and said, "Oh, I bet you want this," in French. And I was just like, are you kidding me? You guys are something else. Like it was just so unheard of. And anyway, so back to me getting to this point where I felt really good, and we had just come into our next preseason. I said I was at 21% body fat. My weight was significantly down, and we did our like preseason fitness test. And I told Cari this, I absolutely killed it. I killed everyone. There was maybe one person that was close to me, but I was so proud of myself. I'm like, I got to this point, like I'm the fittest player on this team. There's nothing like more I need to worry about, and I can just play and like worry about soccer. And our coach at the time like brings us into our like pre-training talk, and we're outside, and I remember it like so vividly. And he goes in French, so everything's in French. We're really happy with the few players that lost this amount of weight and got to this amount of body fat. And I first couldn't even believe that we were talking about this in front of the rest of the team. And he goes, so-and-so, like, you guys are good to go. You can play. Like, we're really happy with where you got to. And then announced to the team, Lindsey, your weight's not good enough yet. Your body fat is still too high. You're not going to play in a game until that's down. Said that to the team. I started like shaking. I was so mad. And I looked at Tobin, and Tobin just like shook her head. And I think she mouthed, "Don't worry about it." I like went up to Tobin and I was like, "I want to leave right now." She was just like, "Lindsey, just get through training. Like, we'll talk afterwards." And I'm like, I can't train right now. I don't want to play. I don't want to play soccer. Like someone's telling me I can't play because of my weight, and like, not even just that, like I just killed everyone on the test, like the fitness test. I was like, how can you possibly say that this is affecting me anymore? And so anyway, after that training, like the whole training session, I was like tearing up, and my coach was yelling at me, and everything was wrong. And then after the training, I remember I was like walking to the locker room, and my coach said, "Lindsey, let's go talk." And we go and talk in his office, and he brings in Tobin, and he sits there and he was just explaining like why he's doing this, and then tells Tobin, like, "You need to help Lindsey out." And Tobin's like, "I don't understand like what you need from me. This isn't my problem." And Tobin's in the right. She was like, "This is," and she was kind of like backing me in a way, but not being disrespectful to our coach, because she didn't want anything worse to happen. And me and Tobin were living together at the time, and he was just like, you need to take any bad foods out of the kitchen, any candy, any chocolates that you have, like you can't have in there anymore. You're not helping Lindsey out. The way you eat, like you can do that, which she can. You can't do that around Lindsey. And I sat there and I was just like, no, that's not it. And I couldn't even, like, when I cry, I can't speak. And I couldn't even speak to him at that point. I was like, I'm literally done here. I want to leave. I wasn't going to say it right then and there, but I got home and I called my mom and I was like, there's no reason for me to be here anymore. Like, I don't know what more I can do. And yeah, it's just a really, really bad situation. And so I called my agent at the time and I was like, literally get me the hell out of here. And he was like, okay, let's take one step back. I talked to him and a few people and they were just like, let's give it a little bit. Let's give it 2 weeks and make the approach like basically an FU to your coaching staff. Just go and enjoy football again. You don't have this added pressure to like be playing games because they won't allow you to. Just do your thing. Like, keep working on yourself. If like you need to lose more weight, don't kill yourself over it, but like do your thing. And so I had that approach, but then off the field, it was even worse. Like, I was running twice a day and having training. I would go on these 45-minute slow jogs because I was Googling anything to like lose fat. I would go on like extra walks throughout the day. I had like bike workouts that would make me come into the training facility to do these extra bike workouts, or like go and run with one of the coaches that it just like slammed me for being too fat the entire time on these like 45-minute runs. So I had all this extra stuff, and then I just stopped eating. I would like have one like thing of cereal in the morning and with fruit and yogurt, because that's what I was allowed to have. And then I really wouldn't eat lunch like after training. I just didn't. I would maybe have a bar. And then dinner was like this small, I laugh about it because it's just like, I can't believe I did that to myself. I would have like the smallest portion of meat and veggies, and that was it. So unhealthy for a professional athlete. It was so horrible. And I had zero energy. I would nap every single day because of that. And I got to about 14% body fat, which maybe some people like it's okay, but like for me, that is like so not okay. Yeah, I was like very unhealthy. And the funniest thing was the coaching staff absolutely loved it. They were like, oh my gosh, look what we did to her. Like, she's so much better for it. She is so like beautiful now. And that was like the word they used. It wasn't like I was fit, I was healthy, I was strong, and like I was playing well and they could see it on the field. It was like, wow, you're so beautiful now. Like, you're so skinny. Like, look, you have no fat on your waist. Look at your legs. You fit into this now. And like, you don't see it through your shirt. Like all this stuff. Like, that's the way they looked at it. And I'm like, I hate you people. Like, I was just like so angry with them, and I had the FU attitude. I was like, you guys are just trash. So that was kind of how I went about it. It didn't get better. Nothing got better. Like, I would be at 14% body fat and a certain weight, and I'd come back from something, or like one day I would be like a pound or two heavier, and they're like, Lindsey, like, watch out, your weight's up. And I'm like, 2 pounds. My weight's up 2 pounds. Like, I could have chugged 3 glasses of water before this, and that's why it's up.
Do you think you played better or worse when your weight was okay, according to them?
The funny thing was, when I lost that amount of weight, at the time I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but that's when I had the biggest injury of my life.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I did my knee. I had a microfracture done, which most people don't know what that really is, but I had like damaged cartilage that was floating around my knee, and they had to do a microfracture, which is like poking holes in the bone to like let it bleed out and create this new cartilage. And I was out for 7 months, which was just terrible because all I thought during that 7 months was do not gain any weight. So even during that time, I was depriving myself of so much. And yeah, I think when there was like a point, like obviously, you know, when I said I was like at 21% and I'd beat everyone on the fitness test, like I thought in football and training, everything was like going my way. I thought I was playing better than ever. But as soon as they said that, that just dropped down. Like, I wasn't performing again because all I was thinking about was this image that they wanted of me.
I guess who'd you turn to during that time was what I wrote before, but I guess Tobin, your family, like... Like, how did you cope with this? What were you doing? Like,
the funny thing is,
I mean, you weren't because you were unhealthy.
yeah. I mean, my mom, I spoke to every single day about it, and like she was so great. Like anytime I'd see her and my dad would both be like, "Oh my gosh, you look so good! Like you look so healthy! Like you're so lean! Like they're so supportive, so cute." And but I was actually with my parents when I did that body fat test, and I got 14%. And I remember, I don't know if my dad would even say this, but I looked at his face when he heard the number, and I think he was at first just like, that can't be right. Like that's like shocked, because that's kind of, it's a very absurd number for a female, because I think the average would be 17 to 20, 21 for a professional athlete. And then he was like, okay, I got to be positive and be like, well, that's great, honey. But I guess people I turned to, it's funny, April Heinrichs was a call that I made, Tim, my coach back home. But really, my mom, I mean, I spoke to you a lot about it. I spoke to Sarah, one of my good friends, about it. And that was really it. And
what about the other girls that were also going through it? Like, have they ever since that time, have they spoken out about it publicly ever?
No, those girls were French. So I think maybe they were more not okay with it, but weren't
used to
as
that
emotional.
Culture, maybe.
Yeah. And used to the image that these guys wanted, because it wasn't just the weight thing. It was also like, there was a player on my PSG team that in their eyes, she wasn't this like beautiful girl that always wore makeup and looked good for every single game. And she wasn't getting called up to the French national team. And then once she like changed her look and everything, she got a call up. I remember my coach coming up to her and saying, see, look, you change this and you get that. And I'm like, but that's like what it is. And that's what I thought like the weight thing had turned into. Yeah.
For you not to have a debilitating eating disorder right now, I mean, I don't know if you still struggle with that, but that could have caused so much more serious harm. Like, thank God you were able to be strong enough and like lean on your parents and overcome that. But I feel like if I was in that situation, I would be like, that's terrible. And it's so irresponsible as a coach. And also he's setting this example and basically teaching women like the only way you're going to be successful is if you're pretty, if you're skinny, if you're beautiful. And if you don't fit into this man's image of what you should be, then you're not going to succeed. And that is so, I'm sorry, that's so effed up.
Yeah. And it's funny. You asked about him. I saw him during the Challenge Cup. We spoke a little bit. We hugged. He still like was a good coach in certain ways. And I would say that no matter what, but it doesn't take away anything that he's done to me. And so he came up to me after we like reconvened and everything. And he goes, Lindsey, I forgive you for all the comments you made about me on social media. And I said to him, I didn't apologize. And like what I said was my honest thoughts, and what you did to me really affected me. And he didn't understand what his English is still all over the place. And he goes, we can talk about this later, because it was right before the game. And I was like, okay, we never had a conversation about it. Still to this day, I just really don't feel a need, after he said he forgives me. The thing is, I want people to know, like, the coach and I had a good relationship. He basically would call me like his French dad in a way. And like Tobin would say this too, like he wanted to protect me. He wanted the best for me. Like he still did make me the player I am today. Like the things that I learned, like football wise, I took so much from that. And that's like why this is so hard, because I go back and forth with it. I'm like, the coach was like so great in so many ways. And I know he like looked at me like as a daughter, because I was this young American that came into the team that, you know, really missed her family and all this stuff. And like, he would do a lot for me, but the culture there is just like so different than it is in America. And the way they went about this, it was the assistant coach, it was the doctor, it was multiple people, and they didn't like compliment each other. There wasn't like one authoritative figure that was helping me out through it over there, or could vouch for me, or could give me any kind of like encouragement through it. It wasn't like an encouraging thing. It was so negative. Nothing was okay. Like not one time they looked at it and they were just like, it's okay, Lindsey, like we'll get through this. Like you're going to do so great. Like you're going to work so hard this year. Like, it was just like, you're way too heavy right now. You have too much fat. And like, you hear the word fat and it just sounds like so bad. And you're like, how could you ever say that to someone? You would never just say that to someone. So I go back and forth with the coach. And that's like why when I first saw him like at the Challenge Cup, or like I saw all these comments being made about him on social media and stuff, like part of me felt bad. And I was like, why am I feeling bad right now? Like, just because like he did do so much for me, and he like took a risk bringing me to PSG, and like I was there for 3.5 years, and he let me go half a year early to go try and make the Olympic team. Like, I was like, this man has done so much for me, but I'm like, no, it doesn't take away from everything he did here. And like, that's not right that like I feel like I can't speak about it. That was one of the main things.
Well, it's cool that you can speak about it and control the narrative in your own way. Like, it was hard for you, you struggled, but that can also occur at the same time as him being like an incredibly important, crucial, helpful part of your journey as well. Like, you can have both. Like, that's, right. People forget that sometimes.
Right.
With that being said, lead into, well, I have like a gazillion questions, but obviously I want to address like how this has affected you today. Are you still dealing with any of the aftermath from that time in your life? But also, like, what did you learn during that time? And if someone was listening to this and they were like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling with something like this. Like, obviously not everyone had the same path as you. You have a very 1 in a million life that you live, but maybe someone who's not even an athlete might be listening to this and they're like, I struggle with this type of like eating problem.
Right.
Disorder, if you will.
Right.
What are you, tips, tricks, what did you learn? How did you get out of it? How did you escape this 14% body fat situation?
Yeah. This, I hope, doesn't like come off wrong, but for me, you never escape it. It's learning to deal with, you know, what did happen and how can you be stronger for it. I don't think I can ever escape like what did happen. It's still like a sensitive subject to this day. And I think I look at everything I eat, and it's not like I'm measuring and doing what I did at PSG or depriving myself or any, like, I got myself out of that. But like, once that happens to you, like, you can't go back to like the way you were. And again, like, as professional athletes, like, you do watch what you eat and you make sure you're getting the right nutrients and that you are, you know, healthy living, but you still need to like enjoy and splurge and, you know, whatnot. Like, we're humans. I think for me, like, I'm affected, and that will always be the case because of what happened and how traumatizing that was. That being said, I think I feel like strong enough to know, like, if I gain weight or I gain a few pounds or I feel just like a little heavier or whatever, I don't sit there and just kill myself over it. I sit there and look at myself, and I know that I'm beautiful, I'm strong, and I just need to change a few things to get back to the point that I want to be. And it's still a process and it takes time, but I know that I can do it because I have before. And I think our bodies, you know, go through changes all the time and in and out of season. When we're playing crap load of games, if we're in a World Cup, if, you know, like, your body changes, you lose weight, you gain weight, and we're also women. It just happens. And I'm like, I just need to remember like who I am, how strong I am, that I'm beautiful, and like no one is going to take that away. And like, I'm so like well informed with what I need to put into my body, like what makes me at my best, what makes me performing at my best. And also look at it like, if I need to lose a few pounds, it's going to just make me better on the field, and it's going to make me feel better, and it's going to make me, you know, I don't know. It's going to make me feel good, but it's not because like, oh, me losing this weight is going to make me so hot or so beautiful, or people are going to look at me and say, wow, like, look at how skinny she is, or whatever. No, it's, I'm strong, I'm healthy, I feel good in my body, and no one's going to tell me differently. And I know like that this all like sounds so cliche, I feel like, but it's so true. And it's hard because there's not like one piece of advice like I'd give to someone that's like going through something like this, because it's just so hard to get out of.
All of what you just said was like wonderful, I think, great reminders. Is it something you're actively telling yourself every single day, or do you remind yourself one little piece of what you just said if you look in the mirror and you're like, I don't like what I see today, or you're like, should I have that piece of cake? do have to actively, constantly remind yourself.
Yeah, but it's also, I think, something that I've learned actually through my agents and my sports psych is when I have these certain feelings about myself or negative thoughts or whatever, that I should let them flow through me, but that they shouldn't stay there. And at some point they need to release, and you need to start thinking differently and how you can switch that point of view to something more positive. It was like such a weird concept when I first heard it, because I was like, that's not going to happen. You don't just like let it flow. But it's like the same in soccer. You sit there and you're just like, oh my gosh, what if I mess up? What if I do this? What if I do that? That still happens to me. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to let it flow through my body, and I'm just going to let it go, because it's just a thought. It's something that's passed over my head, and now it's out. And now I'm going to say, no, I'm going to do this today. I'm going to do this today. And it's not like, I'm not going to let that happen. No, I'm going to do this. And so for me, it's like, oh, I ate that piece of cake, now I'm going to be fat. It's not true. Like, you can have a piece of cake and like be okay, but don't let yourself start thinking, oh, now this is going to be me now, if that makes sense.
Yes, that does. That was wonderful. Not to the extent that you deal with it, and this is not my special episode, but you're not the only person and you're not the only athlete in the NWSL and beyond that struggles with this. And like, all jokes aside from last week's episode when I was like, I'm the biggest eater ever, like I am. We all know, right, Ginny? Yes, I am. I can eat until, I blow up like a balloon. But sometimes it's hard, and that's why I was asking you, what do you tell yourself during these days? And I think we sometimes talk back and forth about this, but like, this is something I've struggled with as well. It's hard.
Yeah.
We are women, and you get in your own head sometimes. And like, I remember I was telling Lindsay, I was with her for the holidays in 2019, and I sent her this little meme. We were in the same room, and I texted her a meme about like giving ourselves permission to like splurge and enjoy the meal. Sometimes you just gotta actively like remind yourself, like, yeah, you can have the cake and you're still gonna be a really good athlete. And you shouldn't have to worry about what anyone tells you, or if you don't look a certain way, or what you see on Instagram. Or we're all different and unique, and like you said, strong. Love the word healthy. And I think I told Lindsay this quote: success is not what it looks like to others, but what it feels like to you. So I guess my point is, like, if I don't look a certain way that everyone else wants me to, but I feel really good, then it's a successful thing for me. And it's I shouldn't change it, because that's how I am going to get the best out of myself and feel fulfilled. If I feel like, oh yeah, this is me, I'm at my best on the field, off the field, I'm feeling good, fit into my outfit nicely, the way I want to, that's great. Even if A, B, C, D, and E over there are looking at me and not thinking the same thing, I literally don't care. And I think that's something we have to always remind ourselves in terms of what we're talking about now, but just in general as well, in any aspect of life. Success, what did I say? Success is not what it looks like to others, but what it feels like to you.
Right.
I like heard that recently. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a really powerful statement. I feel this is a question I feel like I want to ask to everyone. We asked it to Jess. I ask it to Ginny. I say this all the time, and I already know the answer. But what would you change about your journey or any of this if you could go back?
It's funny. I always say, like, I would never change anything.
That's what I thought the answer would be. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, like to a point, because I don't think I could go back into that like 18-year-old body and be like, oh, mentally I can get through this better than I did the first time,
And like, look where you ended up because of it, though, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess ideally we would, but you never know. Like, if this whole thing never happened and you never learned how to figure out how to fuel your body best because of that situation.
For sure.
Would you still be eating Dunkaroos like you were in high school?
This is the funny thing. I know so much information about food and nutrients, and because of that, it's just, my gosh, could they have done it a better way?
Right. I picture it and I'm like, that's not real. But I guess it was real. If you could tell yourself, your 18-year-old self, something now, what would you say?
If I had to tell my 18-year-old self, is she at PSG and she's about to
just getting there. She's rolling up with her 5 suitcases. What do you say to her?
Good luck.
Peace.
Oh, this is about to be a shit.
Sucks to be you.
Honestly, no, I kind of like what you just said. One, I hate that question because it's so hypothetical, you can't do it. But
so hypothetical. So
that
what would you? But you didn't answer my question. What would you?
I wouldn't say anything.
You wouldn't tell her. You wouldn't say, it's about to be like a very bumpy road, but I promise this shapes you.
Yeah, I think
something like that.
I think something along those lines. Like, no matter what happens, you came into this environment, you came to do this experience, to play the thing that you love the most in the world, and nothing takes away from that. And that's ultimately like what got me back into myself when I was over there. Was like, hey, here's a reminder: you absolutely love this game so much. You want to be this person and this player, and that's why you're here. And not one person here can take that away from you. Not your coach, not your assistant coach, not your doctor. No one's going to take that love for the game away from you other than yourself. And that's what I was doing. So once I remembered that, I'd come into training. It sounds so lame, but I would like hold the ball under my foot and I'd be like, this is my thing. I love football so much. I would train 3 to 4 times a day so I could get here. So why is that being taken away from me? And I'm the only one that's doing that. And that's when I started. I literally, like, the coaching staff would say something, I don't have any idea what. It would go in one ear, out the other. And like my whole vibe changed after that. So
that's so cool with the ball under the foot. I really like
I thought you were going to say you started holding the ball like a baby.
That too. It's even like with, players, like any sport, anything people are doing. You go through so many frustrating times and you kind of like forget why you're doing something because of all these bad things that are happening. Like, I just had a stressful 2 weeks here in preseason. We had a scrimmage yesterday and I got out to the field, and I tell Cari this all the time. Like, I always feel my feet in the grass, turf here. And I'm like, I'm so lucky to be doing this. This is the thing I enjoy the most. I absolutely love the game. Like, go have fun. Again, this sounds lame. Like, show the love you have to the ball, because you should be so grateful to be doing this every single day, and don't take that away from like what it's giving you.
That's the furthest thing from life.
Speak about it, it's just so powerful, and you can tell how mature you are from the whole thing. But I don't know, it's very inspiring listening to it.
It is.
Thank you. And I almost cried twice.
That's okay. You're gonna have a vulnerability hangover in about 30 minutes. That's for damn sure. But you made me think of this. This does not define who you are as a person. We always say mental illness or like these struggles, they don't discriminate against people, and also they don't define people as well. Like, you can struggle with something debilitating and painful and still be like a kick-ass person, because you're looking at 2 other people that have done that,
right?
AKA her and I and you.
I got that.
Yes, I was
There's only 3 of us.
You skipped college. I just want to make sure you were, all there.
Low blow.
I'm kidding.
Goodness.
I had to make one skipping college joke. But no, seriously, you know what I mean. Like, it's people are gonna look at you and be like, we did not know that. Once again, she's on this pedestal. We are starstruck by her. Like, how cool. Like you said, tell the story yourself, reclaim your power. It's gonna be really awesome. I think people are gonna be wowed by it.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on and being comfortable enough to share that.
This is the one place that I would want to do it.
I know. I feel like it's really cool because when people open up and are vulnerable like this, they get nothing but respect. Seriously. People are going to look at you. Not that people didn't already love you, but they're going to now feel like they know the deeper parts of you, and just you can't not root for people like this. And honestly, so cool that you've opened up about this story, because I haven't told my story publicly. It's scary. It's so scary. And I'm like, I joked in the first episode, I was like, it's going to be 5 years before I tell my story. Like, I don't know when I'm going to say it. Like, it's hard. People are going to hear this.
Right.
And it's
and like one of the main things too is like the first thought could be like, oh, like F these guys, screw the coach, screw that person for doing this to Lindsey. But what I would rather it be was like, Lindsey got through this, like what did she do? This is her story, and this is where she is now.